Today's episode is what we're talking about: PCOS awareness. You know why? Because September is PCO Awareness Month, and unfortunately, I have that disease, and so does the nurse that's coming on. But let's give her a proper morning mimosas welcome, guys. Let's welcome Nurse Makeda.
Oh, good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
How are you?
Jinx, you owe me a soda. I'm good. How are you?
I am great, great. I'm so glad to be here today.
We're so happy to have you on here again, guys. Like I said, I absolutely love this woman. She's doing amazing things where she is from, and it is expanded to Colorado because she's in contact with me. So, um,
I have to
Miss
come
Nikki,
there.
yeah, come in, yeah, don't come in the wintertime. But then again, you in New York, you know how the winters are. So,
Yeah. Yeah, Buffalo definitely is not a stranger to the winter, fortunately. I was definitely coming in the spring or the other summer. I get
like,
enough winter for the both of us, okay?
okay, no, seriously, I mean, don't come in the spring either. Spring is still winter here, but
Oh, all right, noted.
But hey, guys, this amazing woman is going to be here talking about her PCOS journey and then her expertise on the disease. For those of you that don't know what PCOS is, it stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I'm actually going to let her probably do more of the explaining because she's the expertise in this. But um, just to start off, I was diagnosed in November of 2014 with polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it's been a journey, but we're gonna let our expertise speak a little bit about the disease, and then we're gonna have her tell her story, and then I'm gonna tell mine. The
Awesome.
floor is over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Makeda. I'm a registered nurse located in Buffalo, New York. So just a brief, explanation of what PCOS is, because I know I find a lot of times when I say it, a lot of times people don't know what it is and what it stands for. So I actually was diagnosed with PCOS when I was about 22. I actually was having some issues with my periods, and I wasn't getting my regular periods like I normally would. And so, most of the time as women, we usually, if we don't have a period, we think we're, pregnant. And of course, that wasn't the case. And so my OBGYN could not figure out why I was not getting my period. So they sent me over to a fertility specialist, and I was diagnosed with PCOS. So, being a 22-year-old, I'm in college, I have no idea what's going on. And I'm like, what is this? And so I'm like, polycystic ovarian syndrome. It has various dialects, to it. So, for one, you may or may not have a possible, you may have cysts, but you may not have cysts. It just depends on the person. There's so many different versions of it, but the overall name is polycystic. And so a lot of times people get, a little nervous because they're like, well, wait, I have all of these cysts on my ovaries. And that necessarily may or may not be true. When I was diagnosed, I only had about two cysts. And they kind of like stayed the same. So they would, measure them. I had an ultrasound, and they checked them to see, if the cysts were, gonna grow, or if they had, some issues with the cysts growing, or if they would shrink. So it just depends on the woman and the hormones and all of that. So it's very much so dependent on the woman. However, in my case, I was told that I was diagnosed with PCOS, and with that being said, it was that if I wanted to have any children or anything of the sort, I would have to be on fertility medicine. Okay. So just to kind of like piggyback off of the actual diagnosis versus my, getting into my story. Basically, in that process of me being introduced, I really wasn't educated. So at the time, PCOS was just like this thing where I had hanging over me and I had no idea what was going on. So prior to that, I actually was diagnosed with thyroid cancer as well. So I had thyroid cancer in the same year that I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. So if those of you who don't know, the hormones are controlled by the thyroid. So a lot of the issues that we were having, um, you know, with having these issues, I had two things going, So I had that thyroid issue, and then I had the polycystic ovarian issue. So with those two things kind of like going at it, you can't imagine, the issues that I was having at the time. So there's so many things that you can have with PCOS, not only with the having the cysts on your ovaries, but you can also have a lot of mood issues. So your mood can be very unstable, very irritable, very emotional, so many different things. You could be hot and cold. You can be have like excessive sweating, not sweating enough, or you can have acne. Acne was huge for me. I felt like I had a lot of discoloration in my face. I felt like I had like just inflammation is super super huge in having polycystic ovarian. So it's so many contributing factors to this diagnosis, and so many different symptoms and things that can be happening all at once. And so, like I said, I had the double whammy. So I had all of my hormones were just so out of whack, and I didn't understand, nor was I educated on how to even get things under control. The first thing that doctors do, they put you on medication. Of course, I was put on metformin, which I do not recommend. As
Not at all.
but hey, I am giving my personal opinion coming from a personal experience. I did not do well with metformin. However, if your doctor recommends metformin and that works for you, I am not, by any means, trying to persuade you not to. But in the at the point in my life that I'm in right now, and after years of doing research and really understanding what polycystic ovarian syndrome is and getting my hormones under control, I personally don't take metformin. And with that being said, if those of you who don't know what metformin is really given to diabetic patients. However, it can be used for insulin resistance. So I didn't tap on that. PCOS is huge. Like that's like one of the major symptoms is insulin resistant. So your body is not metabolizing the insulin properly, so it's staying into your bloodstream. So obviously, when you are eating any type of food, you're supposed to break that down, and your body is supposed to be able to metabolize that in the body, and it's not doing that. So it's building up in your system. Sometimes you can have high blood sugar and sometimes you can't. So it's kind of like the body is rejecting the insulin that you're supposed to produce in your body to be able to break down the food so that you don't have issues metabolizing food, if that makes sense. And with somebody like me or Holly and has PCOS, your insulin can be extremely high. Now, however, I'm not diabetic. However, metformin is going to help, reduce that insulin. But there's other issues that come with that because you can have issues with your gut with metformin. So there's so many different things, and the list goes on and on and on about what my personal opinion is about metformin. But like I said, everybody's body is different and they may, react differently. But for me, I personally cannot tolerate it. And so when I got pregnant with my son, I just completely decided that I wasn't going to take it. That was just my personal preference. So, um, I mean, is there anything else you want me to discuss prior to me kind of going into my whole journey? Because I mean, I could talk so much about this topic because and I just want to say thank you to even highlighting this because I will say this is the first time that I actually publicly discussed my personal journey with PCOS. And so I'm very grateful that this opportunity was given to me because I have been nervous and scared to talk about it. I guess initially I wouldn't say embarrassed, but as a woman, when things don't go the way you feel like it should, or the normalcy of, how they say women's health should be or our hormones, you tend to feel that there's something wrong with you or there is some type of alteration in your genetic makeup or whatever. So when I was diagnosed and not being properly educated, saying being told that it's not reversible, you can't reverse it. It's like permanent. You think like, oh my God, like what's going to happen to me?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so I just feel like this is important because, especially being a African American woman, I'm late 30s, almost 40. It's a huge thing because, if you have fertility issues, if you have hormone issues, you can have pre and, early menopause with this,
Yep.
so there's so
Hmm.
many things that can happen. And I think it's so important for us to be knowledgeable about this particular syndrome because you want to be able to tackle these symptoms early.
Yeah.
Because again, if you don't take control of your insulin, you can be pre-diabetic, you can be a diabetic, you can have so many other issues that kind of tally on to this syndrome. So one of the things that I, from an expertise perspective, will say is the first thing that I would suggest is making sure that you have the proper blood work done. Because that's important because you want to make sure, first of all, you want to make sure that your thyroid levels are within normal range. You want to make sure that your insulin is in with the normal range, and you want to make sure your blood sugar is in with the normal range. Also, if you're experiencing any of those symptoms that I stated, and also I think Holly posted on here as well, if you have experienced any of those symptoms, you want to make sure that you are, doing all the things you need to do. So if you need to get an ultrasound, because the ultrasound is going to really be able to show you the other things, like if you have a cyst, if you're ovulating, those are the things that you want to see because fertility is a huge, concern with PCOS. When I was diagnosed, I was told by the doctor that I would not be able to have children unless I was on a fertility medication. And I will say they put me on a fertility medication to help me ovulate, so that I can get a period. Because most times, if you don't have a period, you're not ovulating.
Right.
And so I think a lot of women don't know that either. There is a small chance that you don't have a period and you can't ovulate. It's not impossible, but for the majority of women that are not getting a regular menstrual cycle, they are most likely not ovulating. So, which leads to infertility. So if you are, someone who's in their, early 20s, and or have no children, and you're kind of wondering why, or you have multiple miscarriages or things of that nature, those are signs that you may have some infertility concerns that, you might want to, look at trying to address. So I know I said a mouthful. Um,
No.
so I just really want to tap in, and I tell people now that I have experienced this for most of my adulthood. um a lot of people don't understand why I was so excessively tired. I work a lot, I'm a mom, I have a business, I do a lot of things. So when I first had these symptoms, I really didn't understand. I thought it was just because I was just working so hard, and I was going to school at the time when I found out that I had this, thyroid issue alongside having PCOS. So it was all of these things that I didn't know what was going on. So I would come home from work, I was working, I was going to school, and I would just pass out for hours. And when I say pass out, I mean pass out like somebody knocked me out. That's how much, like, just exerted energy that I had. I just exerted so, and sometimes I wouldn't even have done any of that, and I would just be so excessively tired, and I just couldn't pinpoint why. And so, when I first even thought about going to the doctor, I had this really, really bad sinus headache, and that's really what started this whole thing. And I just thank God that I was, diligent on going to the doctor to find out why I was having these headaches. And he did a thorough assessment, and that's when he said your thyroid is enlarged. And from there, I found out I had a cancerous nodule on my thyroid that I had to get removed 30 days after I graduated nursing school. So imagine, about to graduate nursing school. I'm about to start my career. At the time, I was actually I was considering going to the Navy, actually. And I don't even think I've ever even had told this story to anybody. So you guys are the first to hear it. But I had a recruiter. I had someone help me do a letter and everything. I was going to the Navy. I was determined to go to the Navy. And unfortunately, I could not go to the Navy because once I had my thyroid removed, I had to be on medication. I'm on medication for hormone replacement, obviously, for thyroid, for the rest of my life. And because of that, the Navy would not accept me. So I was very disappointed because I really wanted to go to the Navy. And unfortunately, because of this, I was not able to do so. So after that, that's when I found out about the PCOS. Then I'm like, what else is going on?
Right.
And so I was devastated because, of course, the first thing, I kind of was up in the air if I wanted children. I did, but I didn't. I had younger siblings that I were all around, and I kind of was like, maybe one day. But, you know, the fact that you heard in my head that it's a possibility that you cannot have children unless you're on fertility medication, it's like, what? And back then, fertility medication wasn't as so accessible as it is now.
Yep.
It was like, oh, you got to have this bomb insurance plan in order for you to get fertility medicine. So,
Yep.
first of all, who's going to pay for that? This is all of the things that's going in my head. So, with that being said, I was just like, wait, so I can't have kids? What? So, I went along, my whole 20s, you know, thinking that I could not have any children. And it's so funny because um me and my child's father were dating. Neither one of us had children. And of course, the first thing you do, you're like, whatever. They put you on birth control. And I'm like, I don't know why. I'm not having no baby. So
Right. Never understood that.
so, but I don't know. I guess it was something in the back of my head. It was like, okay, still take it, whatever. So, I took the birth control, and I just didn't like the way it made me feel. I was on a birth control for like a year. And then I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to take it anymore. What's the point? Why am I taking this medication? Because for what?
Right.
So I had just went on this journey. I was in the process. I've always had these fad diets that I was going up and down with my weight. It was just constant. But when I started dating somebody, you know how that is, girl. You just be like, oh, I'm so in love.
Love. Yeah.
I'm so in love. I'm going to eat whatever I want. And so, I started, exercising, and just, at whatever point I had lost like 30 pounds, 30 to 40 pounds. And I got pregnant. I got pregnant with my son. And I was like, it was so funny because when I found out I was pregnant, it was almost like, stop playing with me, God, because this man told me I cannot have no baby unless I was on fertility medicine. What are you saying? And at the time I worked as a I did education for pregnant moms and babies and children. So I was a lactation counselor. So I was in that field of, so we had pregnancy tests on deck, okay? And I'll never forget this day because I worked with all women. So our periods were like around the same time when I was on my, when I was getting my birth control consistently. And when I had stopped taking it, I was just like, oh, maybe my body is kind of like going back to what it was before. And one of my coworkers was like, no, mommy, you probably pregnant. And I said, no, I'm not. I ain't pregnant. Girl, stop it. So she was like, no, 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 no. Here, let's take a pregnancy test. And it was a digital pregnancy test at that. So I was like, okay, whatever. It's going to say negative. I don't even worry about it. So we go, I took the pregnancy test and immediately it said pregnant and I just screamed. I thought I was like, I thought I was being bamboozled, and I just thought that it was just like a default. It was just like everything in me was saying that it's not true. I don't know what this is. And I called, I remember my cousin, she had her last daughter when she was like about 37. So she was a little bit higher risk. And she had a doctor that helped her because she had a previous miscarriage. I did have a miscarriage prior to my son. So basically, so that was another like, reason why I kind of was like, okay, no. So when I did contact the doctor, he was telling me, that, you might, he kind of was like, he was an older doctor. So he was kind of like giving me this, this, this response that made me think that, okay, maybe it's not true. And so he was like, yeah. I said, well, do you like, I took this pregnancy test, this is what it says. I'm not really sure. He was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of faint. It's a faint one you did. And I said, oh, so I'm not pregnant. He said, oh no, you're pregnant. You're pregnant.
Oh.
I said, oh, I am. Okay. So what do I do? So, he monitored me for about 12 to 13 weeks because I guess from my previous miscarriage, what he was saying was my progesterone level was low. So because I, never was, in the process of knowing how that works, I didn't know why I had a miscarriage because they don't really tell you. They really don't do excessive testing until you have about 3 miscarriages in your life. So with that being said, he monitored me. I had ultrasounds weekly. I got blood work weekly. And then I was able to go to my OBGYN. So I was still high risk. I did have preeclampsia. And I did give birth to a preemie. He was about 5 weeks. I was induced. However, that's another topic for another day when it comes to high risk with all of these other factors that come to it because when you have PCOS, you can be at risk of preeclampsia. That's high blood pressure while you're pregnant. I never had issues with my blood pressure my entire life, and my blood pressure was extremely high where I could have had a stroke. So, it's so many things that I feel like the lack of our community as Black women are not being educated. And I feel like the doctors are not doing their job and their part when it comes to these things. PCOS, thyroid issues, any fertility issues. The list goes on and on and on. So I said all of that to say is that, my journey with this has not been an easy, but I also look back at how far I have come. I have a beautiful baby. He's not a baby no more, honey. He as tall as me. We were the same size. He'll be 10 next week. And so this is like the perfect time that you chose to do this. And today is the 7th. And I feel like the 7 is a very special number to me. Seven, to me, it's a number of completion. And I feel like, I've completed so many things in my life where I was told otherwise that I would not be able to. There's so many days that I come home and I just be so tired because of things, and you have conversations with people who don't understand that it really is it's a struggle.
It
It's
is.
really a struggle. um these last 2.5 years have really been a journey. And one thing I can say about having PCOS, like, you're more prone for depression and anxiety. And I had started to get depressed. I had started to get anxiety throughout my adulthood, and I could not understand where it just came from. I would just get anxious for no reason. I would have anxiety attacks. It was just so much that I was not able to control, understand. And that's why I said it's so important to really be mindful of how you have self-care, very mindful of the people and things that you allow in your space. I'm a firm believer that if you disrupted my peace, you got a peace, literally. And I feel like right now I am so listen, I will block you before I can say the word block, because trust me, I have allowed so much to consume me on top of having the other things that I had going on. And I'm telling you, mental health with having PCOS, it is like 10 times as harder. 10 times as harder. So if you have done research on PCOS and you see the contributing factors that are, associated with having PCOS, imagine that times 20. Okay, because it's so many things. Your hormones are like, it's like they're fighting against each other in your body, and you are not able to understand why. So I said a lot today, and I just really want to make it known that this is something to me that I was hiding because of so many different emotions that I felt behind it. But for the wonderful, grateful Holly, I stand before you today, and I could just say, like, I am so glad of where I have been, because if I haven't been through those things, I would not be here today. I would not have the knowledge to be able to, express to you how I've been through, and I still go through it, because I was tired yesterday, and I just would take, but I have been more mindful of when my body is giving me those signs, I'm going to take it, because I'm a workaholic. Okay. I will work because I have to get things done. I've always been that way. But we have to give ourselves grace, and we have to give ourselves, the time that we need. And sleep is very important. Sleep is important for anybody, but sleep is especially important for somebody who's going through this, because it's just so much energy that you are burning, so much energy that
Yeah.
you are exerting, and your body can feel depleted. So some of the things that I would recommend and suggest is really getting on the path of eating. Your eating is your fuel, eating the proper foods, consuming the proper vitamins. Those are the things that are really going to help you to overcome these symptoms that you have been experiencing. I take my sea moss. Vitamin D is huge, especially being in Buffalo. We don't get a lot of sunlight throughout the year. It's so many things that, we have to tap into. And seeing is that I started talking about that I have PCOS. I have so many clients that I have came encounter when they have PCOS. So this is something that I would not ignore, especially when you're getting older. Because I think when I was younger and I first got diagnosed, hey, I would gain weight, I would lose weight. But at the time, I wasn't really like, taking it as serious. Because, when you're younger, you're like, well, I'm young, I got time.
Yep.
But I'll be 40 next year, and no, the time is now. And I never was like really bad with like my acne and stuff. Maybe to me I was, because I felt like I would have bad breakouts, but people would tell me no. But acne is really, really what you eat. what you drinking. It's so many things, and your hormones are not balanced. So I would really, really hope that what I said today was beneficial to you. I hope that, if I did leave anything out, let me know. But I definitely have been on a roller coaster. It's definitely been a roller coaster for sure.
But you're here,
I am here,
and
and
that's what
you're here,
matters.
and grateful for you for me to be put on the light of wanting to help those. And this is something that I'm really passionate about, and I really have been really thinking about you know putting this thing out here and really trying to help those women who are going through similar issues, especially with fertility, because I can understand how heartbreaking it could be. I've had 3 miscarriages in my life, and planned and unplanned pregnancies. And I feel like, when those things happen, you kind of feel less than a woman, because why am I not able to produce a child? Or why am I not able to, give life? So you kind of feel, I mean, I don't know if anybody else felt like this, but I have felt like I was not, able to be that blessing. And so when I say like my child is my everything and my heart, like it is a journey, because bringing him here was not easy. I was on bed rest for 2 months, so many things happened that could have, prevented me from being a mom. And now I have an almost 10-year-old in less than 7 days. Actually, yeah, Thursday, really 4 days, 5 days. um it's amazing, and he's the sweetest thing that I have ever. He is such a sweetheart, and he loves me, and it's just a blessing to be able to have that, because some people don't experience that and they want to. So I do say that it is very possible for you to have PCOS and have children. You just really have to know and listen. You have to listen to your body, and you really have to know that there's ways that you can reverse it. And
Yep.
unfortunately, my doctors didn't tell me that. I had to do my own research. So here it is.
Same, same. So I just want to say thank you to you for first and foremost your expertise, but more so for your story. I am so grateful that you shared that with not just me, but with everybody who will be watching this. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So my journey, I'm gonna keep it brief. So I was diagnosed in November of 2014. I was almost 22 when I was diagnosed. I had had multiple miscarriages before that, and I didn't know why. And then once I got that diagnosis, that's what happened. Fast forward February 2016, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So I ended up being the one that the insulin just said, fuck it, and, gave me full on diabetes. So I've had diabetes for 8 years.
Hmm.
And, when I was diagnosed, I heard the doctor say that I wasn't going to have kids. It was going to be harder for me to have kids. And I don't know, I was just devastated. So I just want to just reiterate a lot of things that she said, because it definitely affected my mental health. I was suicidal.
Hmm.
Because, for those of you that know my story, I lost my firstborn when I was 15. And then to be diagnosed with something like this, knowing that I had a loss like that, I'm like, I'm never going to have any other children. Great. Wow. Okay. Let's just stick it to Holly. So I started seeing a fertility doctor, and I was put on Clomid and metformin. And I will co-sign with Nurse Makeda. Do what's best for you, but metformin was not good for me. It made me feel yucky. I was always nauseous. I always had gut problems with my abdomen. I couldn't do it. It was so gross. So I did the Clomid because I was trying to have a kid with my ex-fiance at the time. I did all these fertility treatments for years, and then nothing happened. And then in 2019, I got back with my ex, who is now the father of my 2 kids. And in no time, I was pregnant. And I was just like literally, we got back together, and then 3 weeks later, I was pregnant. I'm like, oh boy. And I didn't believe it, just like you. I didn't believe it. I took a pregnancy test, it said positive, and I was like, nah. So I took 4 more. Didn't believe, still didn't believe it. And I'm like, okay, somebody's playing like a mind trick on me. Mm-hmm. And then I finally went to the doctor that May because I found I was pregnant at the end of April. And they gave me the ultrasound. Like, yes, ma'am, you are pregnant, and you're having twins. I was like, oh, twins. I was just like, oh, I didn't think I'd get pregnant. And now I'm pregnant with twins. Oh my God. So happy. And then fast forward, I lost one of the twins when I was 4 months pregnant. But I have 2 beautiful babies, Serenity and Sincere. And so I'm grateful for my PCOS journey. But I just want to encourage people, just like Nurse Makeda encouraged us with the knowledge and her story. Ladies, don't give up. Okay. It's really rough because, especially with some of us, we have like, chin hairs and mustaches. I don't like that either. And it's, why do we have to go through that? Why do we get beard hair and mustaches? Like, it's like, I'm not no man.
Right. The testosterone in some women, and even without PCOS too, like I said, it's really a hormone imbalance. But one thing I will say, because I'm more into holistic and practices now, not like I said, just with my own personal thing, but I would drink spearmint tea. It's really good for that reducing of testosterone. So if you have any, like if you have a testosterone, if you have taken like a blood test and it says your testosterone is high, drink you some spearmint tea daily, and that will help reduce your testosterone. And if you are experiencing any facial hair, that will help with that as well. But yes, that is one of the holistic practices that I have looked into, because those are the things that that I was seeing, because I have met other women who really, like you said, will have like really full-blown beards, and I mean, as women, that is very discouraging, especially if you're trying to date, or and if people don't understand the whole dynamic of it. But yes, so drink you some spearmint tea. Okay. And that will help reduce those testosterone levels, so that you can reduce your hair, facial hair. And then I would say for thinning, so it's crazy because you got the thinning hair, and then you got the beard hair or the mustache, but then you get thin. It just doesn't make any sense. So black castor oil is really good for your hair, your thinning. It will help thicken your hair. I have locks, so in the beginning I will use carrot oil, but it seemed like it's very hard to find it now, because I've been locking for almost 5 years, and my loctician, she would suggest carrot oil, and that would help thicken the follicles, to help, like when you're locking in the beginning, it kind of like make it a little bit more fuller. But it's hard to find. Like I have bought so many, so I'm still like using the ones that I've had from the last like year. But if you don't have access to black castor oil, but yes, definitely carrot oil, African black castor oil is really good to help reduce that thinning, and that will help thicken up your, like, I know, edges and all of that stuff. I'm just so grateful. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Because listen, I don't want to be bald no time soon. Okay. So yes, I am like on it when it comes to my holistic. Listen, I will drink a tea. I was just going through tea. I got so much tea and oils and all of that stuff, honey. I am, listen, we gotta take care of ourselves. If we don't, we know better, you do better. That's my firm believing in that. Okay.
because she said that, I'm gonna end the episode on that note, because that's all that needs to be said. If you do better, if you know better, you do better.
Absolutely.
Once again, I just want to say thank you to you, Nurse Makeda. We love you here at Morning Mimosas, and we just want to say also congratulations for being our nurse expertise, guys. More knowledge from this goddess will be coming to this show, and I just want to say I'm excited for her other podcast interviews that she has coming up. I just want to say I'm so grateful for that as well. Like, people are seeing her, and I'm so grateful for that. But guys, you're welcome. It's my pleasure, because you're mindful and you're demure. So I love that.
Love you.
All right, guys. This is Morning Mimosas. You guys know we awaken the Black and minority communities by valuing justice, truth, healing, and educating. We will see you guys next week. Until that time, ta-ta, people.